I wanted to start by telling you not about me, but about a colleague of mine named Jason Zoller. And he works at Procter & Gamble with me, and he's a consumer researcher like I am. But when he was in college, his senior year, he had a very unusual class project. And he and about 5 or 6 of his comrades, their job for the semester was to work with the local judicial system, the local judge, to do this, figure out how could they improve the jury deliberation process. So imagine this 5 or 6, idealistic 20-somethings setting out on this project, and they were very excited about it. And they did the kind of things that you would probably do if you had been them. They interviewed the other judges in the jurisdictions, prosecuting attorneys, defense attorneys, former jurists themselves, anybody associated with the jury, with the judicial system. And they asked them all the same kind of smart questions that you would probably ask. What was the demographic profile of the jury? What were the jury instructions given? What kind of information were they allowed to have in the jury room or not? How long did the trial last? How late did they make them work into the evening? Even what kind of food they fed them. And the surprising thing is that they determined that pretty much none of those things mattered. What turned out to matter, oddly enough, was the shape of the table in the jury room. It turned out where there were rectangular tables, whoever sat at the head of the table, whether or not they were the jury foreman, tended to dominate the conversation. And they concluded a less than robust debate of the facts ensued, and therefore a less than egalitarian and an accurate verdict might have been rendered. But where they had round tables, like what we have today, they concluded that a more egalitarian debate of the facts ensued, and therefore a more just and probably a more accurate jury verdict was rendered. So you can imagine how excited they were that they came to this conclusion. They were very excited for 2 main reasons. One is they really felt like they nailed it. They got the one thing that could make a difference. But secondly, it was such an easy thing to fix, right? I mean, imagine if their conclusion had been, in order to have a more just, a better jury deliberation process, you have to seat the jury with better educated, more well-rounded, unbiased, open-thinking jurists. Well, how are you going to do that, right? You kind of get what you get with the jury, process. So they were very excited, and they made their big presentation to the senior judge, and the senior judge was very excited for the exact 2 same reasons, and immediately after the presentation, he issued a decree in all the courthouses in his jurisdiction, anywhere they've got any of those round tables, get rid of them. Put in square ones and rectangular ones, okay? Why on earth would he have done that? Anybody? Why would he have done that? I didn't just misspeak. Get rid of the round tables and put in rectangular ones. To speed it up, the judge's definition of an improved jury deliberation process was not a more accurate one, was not a more fair one, was not a more just one. It was a faster one. He wanted to reduce the backlog on his court docket. Okay, now imagine you're Jason Zoller and his comrades. And here you were, like I said, these young idealistic 20-somethings, thinking that this project is going to help you make the world a better place to be, or at least your small part of it, right? And in their mind, they had done exactly the opposite, right? They made it a worse place to be. So they may have finished the year with an A on their report card, but they felt completely defeated. Now, 20 years later, Jason tells that story to young consumer researchers at Procter & Gamble to express to them this lesson. It is very important to be crystal clear on your objectives before you start a research project, or you may be sorely disappointed at the end. Now, he could stand up there in front of them and fold his arms and say, well, experience at the Procter & Gamble company suggests that you should be very clear on your objectives before you start a project. That's not going to convince anybody, right? That's going to go in one ear and out the other because it's common sense, and everybody knows that. I mean, it's not like there's anybody that thinks it's important to be unclear on your objectives before you start. But telling the story to them lets them feel almost firsthand what it's like to have not been clear on your objectives and be burned by it and suffer the consequences. So experience has always been the best teacher, and it always will be. But a story is a very close second, and that's why we use it at P&G in a number of places.